How's everybody doing today? So, I'm finishing up a little breakfast, and I had an opportunity to meet one of my former employees about 2 to 3 weeks ago in a cigar lounge, and I still was feeling this thing a little bit. I'm going through a little bit of post trauma and anxiety due to something that had happened to me several different times in my professional experience, and that is being undermined by employees that served under me um, in roles. And in this one instance, a young woman worked under me and another manager that was actually had hired me for her management position, in which she took on a regional role. And I went away for 2 weeks to spend time with my kids on a holiday break. And when I came back, the manager, the regional manager that worked along with me, had gotten fired. Now, the young woman that got her fired had some complaints about things not being done in the way that she saw them. She also was very, very quick with it in her approach towards um, making things happen in a way that she saw fit. Now, the reality to this is that anybody can have insight, right? When we take intelligent tests for certain jobs, a lot of time questions on what would you do in a situation if things weren't going your way, or how would you handle a situation if you saw something and needed to report it. Who would you report it to? The manager? How would you address them? So on and so forth. And so this young lady had spoken a lot of times in very non-professional ways, very aggressive, very selfish, in her intent to do things that seemed to always want to undermine either me or the other manager. And I saw this even before I went away on my 2 weeks vacation. So when I came back off of vacation, again, the manager was fired. And immediately within that week, I had confronted her and questioned her about an instance that happened when the regional manager was there training me in my role as manager over the whole site. And she immediately blasted out. She started yelling at me and then accused me of trying to stalk her in the office. And at that moment, I knew that she had it out for me. Now, I might say I actually helped her to fix her resume, because on her resume, she didn't actually have the certain requirements. Now, I tried to make sure that this woman stayed in the organization, stayed in the company, but yet when I asked her to leave the other manager alone, to allow her to get herself together because she has going through some personal issues, I told her to leave that alone, and I would handle the situations that this employee saw that were conflicting with her work performance. And I actually started doing things to help her along the way, but yet she still dishonored my my knowledge and my insight on how I wanted to handle the other employees, and decided to jump over top of my head, as well as to jump over top of the other manager's head, to go to a statewide director in which she had developed a relationship, behind my back and the other manager, in the sense that she was trying to undercut and undermine both of our authority to get herself in good standing with this state director, in which I really didn't, it sort of blew my mind, but she actually was able to make way with the statewide director, to the point where the statewide director was putting me on a stream, a technology stream, or a communication stream, where she was asking me a question as the manager, and giving my subordinate, my employee, the opportunity to chime in into state things too, which was totally out of order. So at that point, I realized that whatever she had said about my other manager, that obviously wasn't going right, really gave her some leverage, to the point where this woman, this statewide director, was looking to sort of go along with her, in a sense that she trusted her, was confiding in her, which was my employee as well as hers, and giving her leverage to the point where she would listen to her over me. So once I saw this, I immediately, once my employee I saw that she was making statements and creating a toxic work environment, trying to set me up, I immediately emailed headquarters, emailed a copy to myself, to my personal email, and was very extremely detailed in every piece that went against the employee ethics handbook as it relates to toxicity, non-professionalism, provoking or inciting a riotous situation in the workplace, trying to use her gender as a way to get me to do something that was compromising of my character, being challenging authority, not listening to a directive of a person in leadership. I put all of that in there, and I was very detailed and very wordy with that. And so when the state director came up after hearing recording this, so this woman actually also tried to record me, and it didn't work. I maintained my character, I maintained my professionalism and my manners, to the point where the state director couldn't say anything. And so I looked up online and saw that there was sort of a slippery slope as it relates to her trying to record the situation to try to hem me up, to try to set me up. As it would appear that I would, based off of her, quote unquote, being a damsel in distress, that I would be the stalker in the workplace, that I would be the one, because I'm a man, and a big black man, that it would go towards her favor. Now, might you say, this was an African-American woman that had did this, but it was an African-American woman that had grown up on the West Coast, grown up around a lot of Caucasian influence, and tried to play the black Karen, okay, in the workplace towards another African-American male in a professional leadership role, who was trying to help her in a predominantly white-led organization. And so that showed me a lot about her own identity, per se, as well as her esteem and confidence as being a person of color, and being able to believe and to be able to take directives and leadership from a man, a professional, an African-American man. Now, I didn't want to put gender in there, but it was pointed at me, in the sense that you had two women, one an African-American and one a Caucasian woman, who were in cahoots with trying to get me out of my position, because they had gotten the other woman out of position who had hired me, and she was going to put her in this role. Okay. And so I saw that there was some gender discrimination. So once I complained to the state director, and I saw that she didn't do anything, and but yet she was willing to tell me that she wasn't going to write me or her up, when in all reality, it was her that had did wrong towards me as a professional, as her boss, as her superior, as her manager. Yet she's saying she's not going to write either one of us up, when really she should have been supporting me as the staff, as the professional. Okay. But yet she didn't. She was willing to try to seem like she would reprimand either one of us, but sort of trying to sweep it under the rug. So once I saw that, I realized that I had to start documenting to headquarters what she was doing. Even though she was the state director, she was totally out of compliance. Okay. She was supporting this woman. And so at that point, I had told all of my employees, because I kept creating a digital paper trail of complaints towards the state director as well as my employee, to the point where I knew that they would probably try to get rid of me. But at that point, I didn't care, because what I couldn't do was allow both of them. I couldn't allow myself to submit to a toxic workplace environment where, as a man and as a Black man, they were going to set me up to the point where my whole professional career could be totally thrown in the trash. As a man, and let me say this, as a man, especially as a Black man with two women, okay? If one of them could have had the other as a witness to say that I did anything out of character, it could have messed up my whole career in relationship to education and human services. And so I had to document and go from being on the defense to being on the offense, and using my master's degree in organizational business leadership, in which I've learned about HR practices, about employee work ethics, about labor laws, labor contracts, professional coaching. I had to put all of that into work. Now neither one of them knew that I had a degree in that. But I got the degree in that because in prior times past, I have been attacked. I have been accused in a workplace environment, speaking at the same tone as another employee that may have been a woman or a smaller person who maybe worked in a workplace a little longer than them, which doesn't make any difference. If you're out of character, if you're unprofessional, then you're out of character and you're unprofessional. But many a times, there's what's called exclusion in a workplace, and there's what's called discrimination in the workplace, especially against people of color, and especially against Black men in human resources and in leadership roles, because a lot of times they're not used to us being in a position of power and authority, and especially if you're able to usurp authority and speak at a certain level of professionalism and tone. And so since I knew this, in a lot of situations that happened to me in my past, I went and got a master's degree in it. And I used that to help to give myself leverage rather than acting all out of character to sort of pigeonhole them. So they ended up letting me go. But what I was able to do was, because I kept my character, and because I went from being on the defense to being on the offensive, writing up everything that they were doing wrong in the employee ethics handbook, and then writing it up on both of them. At the end, when I was brought down to the HR building and presented with a stack of papers, now I gave all of my employees except her high ratings, because in a performance review, they were pretty much doing everything right. There was no way in the world I could give this young lady high scores when not only was she trying to get me fired, but she had yelled at me. She accused me of stalking her. She was basically trying to get me fired, and she was insulting my intelligence, and she was demasculating me as a man. I mean, I don't mean to go, speak on the man-woman thing, but I'm a professional, but I am a man. She was trying to usurp her authority as a woman, and didn't have authority, but she believed that because of her relationship with the state director, that now she had authority over me as a male professional and a person who was in leadership position over her. Okay, so that was a form of discrimination. So that she and the director was doing towards me. To make a long story short, I ended up leaving the organization. And 2 weeks later, several weeks ago, I met a former employee of mine who told me that she left several weeks after I ended up leaving because she tried to apply for my position as the office manager. So here it is. I ended up leaving because I stood up for my character and integrity. I challenged the organization. I reprimanded the state director as well as my employee, because she was trying to duct tape my mouth, sweep it under the rug with my employee and hers, mistreating me, as a leader in my position as a male professional in authority, and I just wasn't having it. There's nowhere in the world that my reward for being professional, for being a person of high character, for being a person that handled myself in a workplace environment to keep both me and her safe was going to get a reward of um, being pushed to the side while she was going to elevate this woman over my position, and ultimately they were going to set me up. So I set them up. I set them up with a nice digital paper trail of complaints that in which I was able to get a law firm to support me. They saw that it was a viable case, but also on the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, on digital file, there is a complaint written up on as I reported what happened to me in that workplace, and what the state director did, and what HR assisted her in doing. So at no point in time in any of my professional career from this point on can I ever be blackballed, or if they ever see me in any type of workplace environment, can they state anything on me to make me seem like I'm an angry black man, I'm an angry non-professional person that shouldn't be working in a professional atmosphere, because I did my due diligence and used the mighty power of the pen rather than the mighty power of muscle, which never works in the workplace environment. Now, when I was younger, and anybody that knows me in high school as well as in college knew I had anger issues. But over the years, I worked on them. And I learned throughout studying, throughout research, and throughout prayer that you don't have to go outward to express yourself, that you can learn to think from within using your brain, and that you don't have to allow the negative emotions of your past situations and circumstances, that trauma, those challenges, that abuse, to strangle and trap hold you into being a captive and an emotional prisoner of your prior experiences, but that you can live a promising and successful life that allows you to live out your dreams, have a great career, and to have a great lifestyle. Okay. So I'll talk to you guys again soon. I hope everybody got something from this stream. And again, this is Mr. Marlon Speaks on this live stream. And that's just a few tidbits that I believe will help to bless you this day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.